Hello students, welcome to our e-lecture. The topic which today we will discuss, that is the part of speech problem and word clauses. And the lecture contains the layout, which today we will discuss all of those point by point in the details. And the first point outline is different viewpoints to the problem of the part of speech. And the second is the word classes and analysis of 5 criteria. So prior to discuss the problem of part of speech, so let us first define what is the part of speech. The parts of speech are classes of words, all the members of these classes having certain characteristics in common, which distinguish them from the members of the other classes. And the problem of word classification into part of speech still remains one of the most controversial problems in modern linguistics. The attitude of grammarians with regard to part of speech and the basis of their classification varied a good deal at different times. And only in English, grammarians have been vacillating between 3 and 13 part of speech. English part of speech. There were 4 approaches to the problem. The first approach was logical inflectional, which calls classical. And the second, functional, the third, distributional, and the fourth one is the complex. The classical part of speech theory goes back to ancient times. It is based on a Latin grammar. And according to the Latin classification of the part of speech, all words were divided dichotomically into declinable and indeclinable. The logical inflectional classification is quite successful for Latin or other language with the developed morphology and synthetic paradigms, but it cannot be applied to the English language because the principle of declinability, inflectional and indeclinability, is not relevant for analytical language. Functional approach, that was a new approach to the problem, was introduced in the 19th century by Henry Sweet. He took into account the peculiarities of the English language. This approach may be defined as a functional, and he resorted to the functional features of words and singled out nominative and particles. Nominative part of speech belonged to noun words, adjective words, and verb, while to particles belonged adverb, preposition, conjunction, and interjection. However, though the criterion for classification was functional, Henry Sweet failed to break the traditional and classified words into those having morphological forms and lacking morphological forms, in other words, declinable and indeclinable. A distributional approach, that was the third approach to the part of speech classification, can be illustrated by the classification introduced by Charles Fries. He wanted to avoid the traditional terminology and establish the classification of words based on distributive analysis. That is, the ability of words to combine with the other words of different types. At the same time, the lexical meaning of words was not taken into account. Charles Fries introduced 4 major classes of words: nouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs, and 15 form classes. It turned out that his 4 classes of words were practically the same as traditional. What is really valuable in Charles Fries' classification is his investigation of 15 groups of function words, form classes, because he was the first linguist to pay attention to some other peculiarities. So the last approach was the complex approach. In modern linguistics, part of speech are discriminated according to 3 criteria: semantic, and functional. This approach may be defined as a complex. Criteria for parts of speech discrimination are shown in your table. Semantic, which is the meaning, formal, which is the form, and functional, that is the function. Complex approach, a semantic criterion presupposes the grammatical meaning of the whole class of words, general grammatical meaning. The formal criterion reveals paradigmatic properties, relevant grammatical categories, the form of the words, their specific inflectional and derivational features. The functional criterion concerns the syntactic function of words in the sentence and their combinability. Thus, when characterizing any part of speech, we are to describe its semantics, its morphological features, and its syntactic peculiarities. The linguistic evidence drawn from our grammatical study makes it possible to divide all the words of the language into the notional and functional. So noun, verb, adverb, adjective, pronoun, and numeral are as a notional and functional, article, preposition, conjunction, particle, modal word, and interjection. However, the division of a language units into notion and function words reveals the interrelation of lexical and grammatical types of meaning. In notional words, the lexical meaning is predominant, and in functional words, the grammatical meaning dominates over the lexical one. So notional part of speech, or which having lexical meaning, denote a notion, while functional demonstrate the relations between the notional words or specify the grammatical meaning. Notional words constitute the bulk of existing word stock, while function words constitute a smaller group of words. Also, the number of function words is limited. There are only about 50 of them in the modern English. They are the most frequently used units. Functional part of speech are distinguished on the basis of functional commonness, demonstrate the relations between the notional words, or specify the grammatical meaning, denote subjective modality, do not denote a notion, and do not have a grammatical categories, are characterized by a simple word structure and usually have one syllable, and can't be a member of the sentence and not homogeneous, but and if or what in order that. So in English part of speech, so as we know in the modern English linguistic now become only 9 part of speech. The noun, pronoun, the article, the adjective, the adverb, the numeral, the verb, and the preposition and conjunction. That is all. Thank you very much for your attention. Bye.